This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNeely program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Hey folks, today Rob McNeely here, and I am talking to the co-founder of Unstoppable Domains, Brad Kam. Brad, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. Thanks a bunch for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I've been a big fan of what you've been doing now for, I don't know, I heard about you guys probably about a couple months back, and I'm actually got to talk to you offline because I actually think I want to buy one of your domains. But you're going to educate me and the audience today about what your domains are doing and what, before we not kind of get into all that, let's talk about you a little bit. Give me a little bit of history about you. What's your background?
Yeah, so I'm from Atlanta. I've been starting companies since college days. Started out in the real estate world, and actually after the last economic crash, started buying up homes during this period where they dropped by like 80-90% in Atlanta. So it was pretty wild situation. But eventually, kind of realized that I needed to get into the software game, needed to get to San Francisco, needed to get into startups. That's really where the big change was happening. So I moved to San Francisco in 2012, and I moved into this house called 20 Mission, which has been referred to as a house that Bitcoin built in various publications, because it was a Bitcoin hacker house where the second Bitcoin exchange in the US launched in our basement. Vitalik came and gave a talk before Ethereum launched in the courtyard. Pretty much everybody there was doing something Bitcoin related. So I kind of moved to San Francisco, and at the same time, just kind of completely dove into crypto related things and kind of haven't looked back since then. But in general, I'm, been doing startups.
Very cool. So tell me, what is Unstoppable Domains all about?
So it's about free speech tech. It's about creating a censorship resistant internet. And what we do is we build domain names on blockchains. So we have a domain registry similar to like a .com, except for it's part of a smart contract on a blockchain. So we've got .crypto on Ethereum, and the way it works is every domain is stored by you in your cryptocurrency wallet. A traditional domain would be stored by like GoDaddy or your registrar or something like that. And because you have this mandatory custodian, they can move the domain around, they can take it away. So a blockchain domain is one that you control. It's a self-custody, ERC 721. And you use the domains for websites, for censorship-resistant websites. You store your website content on IPFS or another decentralized storage network. And you can also use them for payments. I know this is kind of weird. This is different than a traditional domain. The same domain can work for both websites and payments. So I've got brad.crypto. You could type that into a browser and see my website. Or you could type that into a cryptocurrency wallet and you could send me Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever. You could send any currency essentially to one domain.
Okay, so how does that work? How does it work? So how do you make money? How do I get a domain?
Yeah, so the way it works is you can go to unstoppabledomains.com. It's going to look similar. It's kind of like our version of a GoDaddy. You can type in domains into the search bar. You can check out. You can pay with credit card or crypto. After you do that, you can manage your domain, meaning that you add your crypto addresses so you can receive money to it and launch a website on decentralized storage. So we've got a bunch of little tools in there, kind of like a decentralized Wix, where it's really easy with a few clicks to go and build your website and launch.
So is this a one-time payment, one and done thing, or is this like a subscription model, like an annual model, like much of the other registrars that are out there?
Yeah, this is a one-time fee, and the reason why is because it should just be something that you control and feel like you can control forever. If you have a subscription, you have these risks where the registry could just jack up the price on you. And there was a really kind of crazy thing that's been going on in the traditional domain world around .org, where they're selling what was previously a nonprofit to a for-profit company and talking about jacking the prices by 3x. And all of these, essentially most nonprofits in the world are using .org, and now they're all kind of at risk where they're under the thumb of this of this registry that can just, change prices whenever. So pay once, simple, easier, safer for the user.
So I guess the question I would have, and I'm just trying to understand because I'm actually kind of interested in this project for Tusk actually. And so if you go away, does it still work?
Yeah. Yeah. You're relying on Ethereum, and you're relying on the IPFS protocol, which is a decentralized storage network. Although pretty soon you'll be able to rely on many different decentralized storage networks. So I would say that's a little bit less of a risk because you can always just put your website on multiple networks. For Ethereum, though, you are relying on Ethereum still being there and stable. So it doesn't rely on unstoppable domains. Once you have the domain, it's yours. Doesn't really matter what happens to us. You already control it.
So essentially, when you say it's on Ethereum, does that mean that that's where the DNS is located? So I'm hitting that's where I type in tusk.network and then or whatever it would be on your protocol. I'm hitting the Ethereum network, and that's just a permanent DNS record through Ethereum.
Yeah. So if any of your community has ever used like MyEtherWallet, for example, which is a big Ethereum wallet, so they have MyEtherWallet.crypto. And so you can type it into a browser, and you go there. And when you type in myetherwallet.crypto, the browser goes and reads the Ethereum blockchain, finds the myetherwallet.crypto domain, and then goes and looks for the hash where the content is located, the IPFS hash, and then it shows you the website.
So you said you can put it on multiple networks. How does that work?
Well, I said that I don't want to maybe overcomplicate something. I said that purely to say that you don't need to bet on any one storage network. Right now, we're using IPFS because that's the one that's the most mature and has great tools, and a lot of developers are already using it. And so the way that works is I upload to IPFS, and then people anywhere can store and share my website to the network. So instead of having my website stored on Amazon Web Services, where if they decide they don't like what I'm doing, they can just flip me off. They can just turn me off. Instead, I have dozens or hundreds or maybe even thousands of different people all storing a copy of my website, and unlikely they're all just going to decide to turn me off all at once.
Exactly. So for this way, do you notice any kind of lag time or speed difference between DNS on a traditional registrar or a DNS on Unstoppable?
So the Ethereum lookup part is quite good, quite easy, quite fast. The IPFS, how fast website content loads, is based on two things. It's based on how many people you've got that are storing and sharing your website, and it's also based on how close they are geographically to you. So what this leads to is if your website's popular, then it's also performant. It also works well, which is kind of in a weird way, it's kind of like the opposite of a lot of traditional web systems where you get DDoSed, you get too much traffic and things go down. Whereas here, if you have a whole bunch of demand, you're probably also going to have a whole bunch of supply of websites, of copies of your website being stored around. So I guess that's the long answer. The short answer is right now, because it's early, it doesn't work that well. But the moment something gets popular, it'll work quite well. So it has this kind of opposite of the regular internet approach as it scales. As it scales, it gets better.
Is there a way to use Unstoppable for the DNS and then just point it to a normal web server host somewhere?
Sure, you could do that. I think you would, lose a little bit of the advantage though, because what we're really the purpose of all this is to have a censorship-resistant internet, is to have essentially self-custody of both your domain and your website, so that neither of those can be points of failure where you have to rely on other companies. You control that stuff, and no one can really stop you from publishing. A browser might say hey, this is a really, this is illegal what you're doing, and we don't want to show this record. So there's always that level of place where somebody could try to, block you from being seen, but that's different than somebody just being able to take you down. Right now, registrar can just say, we don't like what you're doing. We're gonna take the domain away. Right now, Amazon Web Services can just switch you off. And of course, in the U.S., I don't think this is as big of a problem, although there are certainly issues here as well. But around the world, there's all kinds of issues with these tools.
So do you think that going forward, especially with crypto, do you expect that there's going to be actual censorship of different types of cryptocurrencies? Now, and I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit because, I'm involved with a crypto project as well. And the one thing you hear about everything from all these cryptos is censorship resistance, the most important thing, blah, blah, blah. The question is, you don't really hear about too many cryptos actually being censored yet. Do you expect that that will change in the future?
Well, I think the very nature of it is censorship resistant. Like, so for example, like Bitcoin and Ethereum do not require permission in order to get an account from anyone. They're able to be sent anywhere to anyone. So they've already proven their censorship resistant use case in the market very early on. And this was very controversial. One of the early use cases of Bitcoin was sending money to WikiLeaks when they got shut off. And regardless of how you feel about them, the fact that there was no way for anyone to stop that was, in a sense, the first time that somebody was ever able to publicly fundraise for a lot of money, completely against the will of the United States and various other countries, and they had no way to stop them because of its censorship resistance. So it's really about like, how do the tools work? And I think you can do the same thing that you can do for currency with domain names. Right now, domain names on the sort of fundamental level, they get taken away. They can get taken away. And if you change the power structure, then you kind of change the entire ecosystem. So that's the idea, is like cryptocurrency is like a safe, open source, permissionless space to build tools on top of, where everybody can join in, everybody can be a part of it. And that's part of the reason why it's important on the fundamental layer. It's not like every single person is getting censored. They're not. But we all benefit from the open source tech because of this like social cooperation thing. We're all working on the same stuff. We're all building stuff that's more and more interoperable. There's innovation all over the world. Like, so it's not just about the people getting censored, although they matter. And I think on the website side, it's a pretty big deal. Like, there's, a law in Turkey that says that a hosting service is not allowed to have the word gay on any website content. Automatically pre-banned, naked as well. You see a lot of this in particular. There's been some pretty weird cases with startups using ly.ly. And when the Islamist regime in Libya took over, they started taking down some websites, including porn websites and things like that. Your basic internet infrastructure should not have those kinds of random points of failure where people can, and the problem is it's people. Like, people that you shouldn't have anyone in charge of what's okay to say. Applications can still create an experience where they, remove the harshest or the most offensive voices if they choose, but it's still a better internet for everybody if I can then go choose a different browser if I don't like what they decided.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you feel that going forward, as demand starts increasing, that that the speed to deliver these uncensorable websites, do you think that's going to improve over time? And you said there's going to be more options. What options are there going to be for, besides IPFS?
Yeah, well, so there are several in the works that are advancing very quickly. IPFS is a couple of years ahead, but there's several that are advancing very quickly. And I think the idea is that you're going to want to have your content on maybe 3 to 5, just as sort of like an extra safety layer. But in regards to kind of the speed and performance, it's really about how many people are storing and sharing that website. And so that's about, in part, how popular the website is. And so I think right now the only problem is not so much the way the tools work, it's that there aren't enough popular websites yet. And those are coming. And I think the tools are just getting easy enough where non-technical people are starting to build stuff all over the place. And that's been kind of one of the new steps that's happened really just in 2020, I would say. Even before now it wasn't. And now we've got this thing with browsers. So Opera browser, which 80 million users on their Android app can now just type in a .crypto domain, just like they would a .com. And that just happened today. That was kind of the big decentralized web news for us today. So I think it's really just that there aren't enough there aren't enough websites yet, but the stuff actually it works. You would just need a lot of people storing it in order to get really, really good censorship resistance and really good uptime.
So what do you see about protecting websites from denial of service attacks? Does this affect that in any way or help with that at all?
Yeah, because essentially what happens is if you get a whole bunch of traffic, it as long as that so it doesn't automatically prevent malicious actors, but you can do things like say, I will only permission these wallets or wallets with these criteria to visit a website in the first place. So you can create like easy kind of locks on your website if you don't want to, if you're at risk of those types of things. Ultimately, I would just say that in general, if you think about like what's really happening, if Amazon Web Services, used to store, essentially all the website data on their servers, and now all of a sudden we allow anybody in the world who has extra storage space to offer it up to anybody in the world, we're going to get a marketplace, and it's going to be a lot more efficient than what we've got over here. So I think it's just that like this model of open source marketplace, peer-to-peer marketplace for storage space, I think it just makes the internet better in basically every way over the long term. If we're saying like, how performant is it over the next year? I would say, it's going to be a little inconsistent depending on geography, depending on the specific website. Some websites are going to work far better than others because they have more nodes sharing them. So you're going to have these kinds of clunky things. So it's kind of like 1990s level internet. But the point is that it works. Like it does work. We do have a decentralized web that functions. It's going to need all the tools, and it's going to need a lot of love before it can really migrate over the previous kind of internet infrastructure stuff. But it does work for the censorship resistant use cases, and it does work for dApps, cryptocurrency applications that are trying to remove all the points of failure in their applications, but they still have the domain name problem, and they still have the website on Amazon Web Services problem. So it solves these two key problems for them. And then we've also got the YouTubers. So the crypto YouTubers have been getting their videos taken down, and you can just put up those videos on decentralized web, and then no one can take them down. Now we're going to need aggregators to make it easy for everybody to find that stuff. YouTube's great at the discovery part, so obviously we have some work to do. It's not going to work tomorrow, but you can go ahead and put them there, especially if YouTube takes them down. Definitely go put them up, and you can do new things like you can charge for them. You can charge 25 cents for them. You could have a tip button in case you don't want to charge, but it'd be great if it's easy when someone likes your video that they can just easily tip you in crypto or whatever. So there's all kinds of new stuff you can do.
So are your unstoppable domains, are they compatible with things like Nginx and Cloudflare?
Cloudflare has done a lot of things to integrate with Ethereum and IPFS. So Cloudflare is kind of very far along. I would need to look a little closer at what Nginx is doing. I just don't actually have enough personal knowledge there.
Very cool. So where would you say you are in your roadmap? What's next for you? You got the Opera integration done now, which is a huge thing. What's the next big thing you guys are working on?
Yeah, so we've got our registries out. We've got .crypto and .zil. We've got a little over 200,000 domains registered. So they've been that process started about a year ago. So there's domains that have been being registered and claimed ever since then. We have been mostly focused on the wallets. So there's like my Ether wallet, Trust wallet, my crypto, Coinomi, Atomic, several others coming soon, where you can send money using the domains. There's also a Chrome extension. So it's an unstoppable Chrome extension. So if you prefer to use Chrome, you can use it. It also works in Brave. And then Opera. So that's the native announcement. The first major browser to ever support a non-DNS domain extension, so far as we know, because it's pretty much been all DNS before this. It's not just about blockchain domain name system. They've never supported anything that wasn't just part of this one kind of ICANN controlled DNS system. Now it's all about making the tools easier to build websites. So that's a big focus. There's templates, like I mentioned, for decentralized Wix. There's people at Kyber.crypto. You can easily launch your own DEX. There's a bunch more stuff like that that are coming. Tools just to make it easy to build websites.
It's very cool stuff. Bradley Kams, where can people find out more about your domains, Unstoppable?
Well, you can go to unstoppabledomains.com or check us out on Twitter, Unstoppable Web, or Telegram, Unstoppable Domains. There's always a conversation going on in there.
Very good. Bradley, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for listening to the Rob McNeely program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcneely.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.